I remember in one show we did. I said, every day you have the choice: meditate or masturbate. Are you going to focus on your big self or your little self?
Welcome to Porn Talk with Powerful Eric and the Porn Habit. Reclaim your power. Here's your host, Powerful Eric.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Porn Talk Powercast. This is Powerful Eric. This show is not just about breaking addictions, it's about breaking belief systems. We are bound by self-imposed and societal chains. Break those chains, get empowered right now. And to help me kick off Season 3, I have back the metaphysical master himself, Sir William of Duffin. Welcome back, Sir William.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be a part of your mission.
Can you believe it's year 3, season 3?
No, I can't.
It seems like we snapped our fingers and here we are in season 3, but season 2 was really limited because of the pandemic. I'm coaching someone now I'll refer to as John, and John's girlfriend broke up with him in February, and he was devastated by the breakup. Then the pandemic came along, and the combination of the breakup and the isolation drove him to compulsively use porn, and that's why he contacted me. So that's why John reached out to me, and I'm sure that's the case for several million other people out there. Those are the people we are talking to. William, tell me, how did the pandemic affect you?
Honestly, people ask me about that. I almost feel guilty about how well my son and I are doing during this time of isolation. We're both kind of homebodies anyway, so it kind of gives us an excuse to not have to go anywhere or do anything. It's a great time for looking inward, even if you're not just like meditating per se, just to walk around the yard and think about things and not have to be anywhere or do any particular thing. Something I see on social media a lot is like people suggesting that this is not a good time to put a bunch of pressure on yourself and say, I'm gonna get in shape. I'm gonna write the great American novel. I'm gonna do all those things I said I was gonna do 5 years ago. Blah blah blah. Well, for some people that works, but for most people, I think, to be honest, it really doesn't. I took a little bit of a break from working on my own business and from a lot of those things out there for exactly that, to literally just to walk around the yard. I've got a little bit of woods I live in here, so it's like it's kind of like being in the park. It's been really great for my son. I have a teenage son and me.
Would you say that you turned this isolation into an opportunity?
Well, yeah, an opportunity to focus on myself. And I think it's probably another good distinction to make, Eric, is, am I focusing on myself with a capital S or on self-gratification? Mm-hmm. It seems like a lot of people, they say focus on myself. It's just like they want their needs met. They want certain comforts. Well, for me, focus on myself means giving myself what I need to thrive. What I need, I have goals. What do I need to achieve those goals? I remember in one show we did. I said, every day you have the choice: meditate or masturbate. Are you going to focus on your big self or your little self? Your little self.
On Porn Talk, we referred to him by the mascot's name, Raging Richard. But you don't want to be a dick like Richard.
That's right. Was that the name of your little guy?
Mascot's name, yeah.
Yeah, mascot, yeah.
Raging Richard.
William, you've taken the pandemic and used it as an opportunity to work on your big self, not your little self. In order to do that, it really forces you to change your perspective on things. But let's not paint this as a rosy picture. This is really hard for a lot of people. The isolation has been really tough on our family.
Yeah, you have little kids, though.
Yeah.
On the note of working on oneself, I want to make sure I mention that I was a student in a class recently, and I can't remember how the subject came up, but I said, pornography lowers your vibration. And somebody says, Well, how does pornography lower your vibration? So I actually thought about it for a second. I gave it a fair chance, And I said, well, I guess just like anything else, it depends on how you use it. Self-pleasure could lead to happiness.
It absolutely can, yes.
One of the things that came to me in that little conversation, Eric, was how do you feel afterwards?
Yes.
That was like a little light bulb moment for me, buddy. I was like, well, I think that's a clue to whether you're doing the right thing or not, is if you're done and you feel guilty or you feel like you wasted your time, you wish you would have been doing something else more productive, well, that's probably what you should have been doing. And that can be your choice in the future. But if you are using porn and or masturbating and it is sincerely happy occasion, then I guess, you're an adult and it's legal, well then okay.
I agree. You're right. You're right. But if you're feeling guilt and shame, then there's no question you're lowering your vibration. If you feel guilt and shame afterwards, there's no question you're lowering your vibration. However, if you're doing this out of self-love and you feel good afterwards, now that's different than sure. But most likely the people listening to this now are not feeling too good afterwards.
I like that little phrase you said, self-love. And I know some people would roll their eyes and go, self-love, how is, well, I think it's pretty obvious. It can absolutely be. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that, like, getting to know oneself. I think it's completely within the realm of reason, in my way of thinking, that avenue of self-exploration. Like, how do I know what I like and don't like?
There are some hands-on classes for women that teach them how to masturbate.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, let me add this to your little mental puzzle there. In this class I was in, it was several sessions. A woman, and the issue of anger came up. She said, I don't know how to be angry. Huh. That blew my mind. It blew my mind. I know, because I tell you how the subject came up. I brought the subject because that's been my demon all my life, is anger.
Yeah, me too.
And she said, I don't know how to be angry. And I was like, there was a time in my life when I didn't know how to not be angry.
Right.
But what she meant was, I don't know how to express my anger. Oh. I don't know how to show my anger.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So a person is telling me she feels angry. Well, this is important. What we're talking about here is a certain level of self-awareness. This person had such an ingrained habit of not being angry. Let's say at an early age you're taught anger is bad. You should never be angry. You should never show your emotions. You should never rock the boat. You should never upset people. You should just mind your business and be a good girl. Okay? So at an early age, I'm told that anger is bad. So I, at an early age, learned to turn that inward so quickly, I don't need to acknowledge that it's anger. So what happens as an adult? I hate myself. Because that anger has been turned inward over years and years and years. Ends up being self-hatred.
That reminds me of a podcast I was listening to. They had a speaker on by the name of Susan David. She wrote a book called Emotional Agility. In the book, she says that people tend to judge emotions, like sadness is bad and anger is bad and happiness is good. She says a more empowering way to look at it is that our emotions, like anger, like sadness, are just pointing us in the right direction. They're guideposts.
Exactly. And so in that class, when I mentioned anger, somebody followed up with anger, which is of course related to fear, keeps you alive. That caveman part of your brain that you see a saber-toothed tiger, you run, you know what I mean? you fight for your life. Let's say your village is being invaded by another tribe. Anger gets you to pumps up your adrenaline, and you literally fight for your life.
Yes.
The reason I brought that up was to talk about self-awareness and being mindful of that gap, that space that's often ignored between thoughts. So like with the woman who said, I don't know how to be angry, I'd say you don't know how to express anger, which means you don't pay attention to that space between that has taken away your ability to be honest about your feelings. And I think that's important, whether we're talking about a porn addiction or any kind of compulsion, is to be able to notice that moment when we have an urge. And I'll speak first for myself, Eric. The way I see it in my mind, I often will see something and I'll follow it like a thread. And I'll see where it leads to. Let's say I feel angry. And I'll say, well, it's not something right here in front of me because there's nothing really here to be angry about. Why do I just feel so irritated and angry right now? And maybe I'll close my eyes. Maybe I'll walk outside. Maybe I'll call Eric and talk to Eric about it. Or so like I said, sometimes I can just close my eyes and I can see like what that's tied to. And I think that's one of the most valuable things I've learned, to be aware of that and to have the like mental agility. I love that title, emotional agility. To have that mental agility to be able to follow that and see what's connected to.
Another question to ask after acting out is, how is this affecting your life?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. You may feel good about it, but you were on the clock. You should have been working.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Yeah. Or it may feel good, but maybe you should have been with your kids at that time, or maybe with your wife at that time, or making love to your wife at that time instead of masturbating to a machine. So the two big questions are, how do you feel afterwards, and how does it affect your life afterwards?
Sure.
Your feelings tell you if it's raising your vibration or lowering your vibration.
Well, of course, because a lot of people, I'm sure almost everybody hides it. So hiding it is secrecy, which means you're lying about it, which definitely lowers your vibration.
That's another great point. If you have to hide it, is that raising your vibration? No, of course not. It's lowering your vibration. And we talk a lot about vibration here because William teaches a class on Ascension. Can you expand on what is Ascension?
Sure. I mentioned Ascension. There have been a few times I've mentioned Ascension, and a person says, oh, I know about Ascension. I know about the aliens and talk about the Pleiadians and the Arcturians and this and that. And I'm thinking, that is not the Ascension I know. The Ascension I know means to ascend, to rise up.
So you mean to float up into heaven like the Virgin Mary?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good one. So that's a great place to start. Let's talk about the people who see it as an alien thing, and on this other hand, the people who's like the ascension of Mary, the ascension of Jesus when he died on the cross, he ascended, and then he became a living master. He came back to earth. No, but I do see that potential in all people. We are all capable of raising our own vibration.
What does that mean, raise your vibration? What does Ascension mean?
To me, to raise one's frequency of vibration, it's not just a matter of feeling good. It's a matter of being true to oneself. I'd say a core feature of raising one's vibration is being true to oneself. In order to be true to yourself, what's necessary is awareness.
Ah, yes. That's the word I was looking for. Awareness. Awareness.
If I don't know my true intentions, how can I be true to myself? Same with the woman who said she didn't know how to be angry. The first step is slow down your mind. Slow down your thoughts so you can see in between them. And what I'm saying, first of all, is not my original idea. And it's not even a new age idea. It's an ancient idea. It's been written about thousands of years ago. Most of what we know comes from the East, Taoism and Buddhism, because that's where it comes from as far as our written history goes. But my point is that what I want to make sure that I express is like, this is not just something I came up with yesterday. This is ancient knowledge that the key to happiness, to what do you call it, ascension, Buddhists would call it non-suffering, to the way to alleviate suffering, is the awareness. First step is awareness, and you continue to expand that awareness. The way I learned it was to focus on one thing first. Once I learned to direct my attention to, say, for instance, a candle flame, then I can expand it. Mm-hmm. There are many, many great examples of this. Like if you've ever shot a gun, or as Bruce Lee in your background there, practice martial arts. Martial arts is actually one of the first things I did that helped me realize what expanded awareness really is, because it's not just fighting. It's you put your awareness out into your whole body.
Another aspect of awareness is on what is really going on in the world. To really know what's happening in the world. Is what's portrayed on the news, is that reality? Is what we're being told about Coconuts 18, is that the truth? I think for me, Ascension is opening your eyes to the reality of what's going on in this world.
I think you bring up a very good point, because, okay, part of awareness is to know what's real and not real. And that's something people question all the time, whether it's the big picture of, like, we talk about social media and all that, but also the smaller picture too. Why would a person choose to not be aware of that? Well, because it's painful.
Exactly.
Because it causes me distress.
Thank you.
Right? So I choose to not give, let's just use the term social media. I choose not to give the media my attention because it causes me stress.
Right.
So a lot of people I know don't watch the news, don't pay attention to the news, don't pay attention to politics because it causes stress.
By the way, a news fast is a fantastic thing to do.
It can be fantastic. And that to me is like a healthy boundary. If I know that about myself, if I know this causes me stress, then I have the capability to not give it my attention. Yeah. And I can see the value in that. But I can also see the value in, because I actually pay attention to the news more now than I ever have. And I attribute that to my practicing concentration for 20 years. Yeah. I can discern what's me and not me. I can listen to the news without letting it affect my emotions.
Well, William, I think you're the exception. You are the Zen master warrior after all, but I can't do it. I cannot watch the news. I cannot listen to the news. It affects me negatively in a deep way. I try to avoid it if at all possible. Now, I do keep myself informed, but there's a big difference between being informed and inundated. And I feel like most people are inundated. Also, I really think, William, you're the exception. I don't think the average person can watch the news and keep a positive mental attitude. I don't know how it's possible. So I applaud you for your years of mindfulness training. But what we were talking about earlier about awareness and basically some people keeping their heads buried in the sand because they just can't accept the reality of what's going on. A great example is Coconuts 18. Some people take the news at face value. Others dig more and explore and expose what's really going on with Coconuts 18. Another example is you talked about the aliens. If a alien spaceship landed on their lawn and they shook their hand, they would say, "Oh, I must be hallucinating."
I'm laughing, but I know what you say is true. And even Psychology 101 tells us it's true. Psychology, just basic psychology, you learn about the basic defense mechanisms. What's one of the first ones you learn about? Denial. It's one of the most predictable human reactions is denial. It can't be real.
And so a lot of people use pornography for that escape.
Very good. Yes.
The metaphorical alien appears in front of someone. They say, no, aliens aren't real. I'll just go watch some porn now. Or, I'm sure the government only has my best interest in mind. They're telling me the truth about Coconuts 18. I'll just go watch some porn right now.
Right. And I think it's worth mentioning that it's hardly ever that obvious. It's usually subtle or even unconscious, don't you think?
That's a very good point. That's an excellent point. Most of the time when I was acting out, I wasn't consciously thinking, oh, I'm in mental or physical pain, therefore I'm going to medicate myself with porn. It almost never was like that. It was more of a subconscious thing. It was very subtle. And sometimes I would be like, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where mindfulness comes in, to be aware of our thoughts and not distracted with social media or whatever.
And that's why, well, I should say that reminds me of why I like your tagline, or whatever you call it, where you say, we're breaking belief systems. Like, that's something I can get behind 100%.
Yeah, the tagline is, this show's just not about breaking addictions. It's about breaking belief systems. We are bound by self-imposed and societal chains. Break the chains. That reminds me of the old Eagles song, Already Gone. You know, he says, so oftentimes it happens that we live our lives in chains and we never even know we have the key. I'll have to do a whole show on that topic. Anyway, you had talked about in another episode about raising a vibration and about Kundalini and the chakras or chakras. Can you expand on that?
Well, let's start with chakra. That's a word a lot of people do know. Chakra is a Sanskrit word that means spinning wheel. In our body, we have 7 main vortexes or spinning wheels of energy. And they go from the root, which is down at your crotch, between your legs, all the way up to the top of your head, which is called the crown chakra. And Kundalini, it's not Italian, it's Sanskrit. Mr. Kundalini.
Yes, I'd like to order a plate of Kundalini, please.
Kundalini. And a salad. No, but Kundalini is also a Sanskrit word. And it translates roughly to coiled serpents of earth. And so there is a school of thought, again, comes from the East, comes from the yogis, comes from Hinduism, that the Kundalini is a serpent, and I mean symbolically a serpent, that rises up the chakras from the root chakra between your legs. And if you practice, there are many different ways that people say you can achieve this, but eventually you direct the Kundalini up your spine to the top of your head, and you reach some degree of enlightenment or ascension or something. There's I say or something because there's lots of different names for it. That's the very rudimentary explanation of chakras being energy centers, and Kundalini is a feminine energy. Most people, some people even call it Kundalini Shakti, which would mean like the goddess Shakti being female goddess. That would be like the personification of Kundalini would be a female goddess. So why we mention this, to help kind of wrap this together, is raise your vibration, or even the idea of enlightenment, is not some fantastical way out there idea. It's what you do every day. If you feed your compulsions, if you give in to your earthly desires, if you have to lie about your everyday activities, if you feel guilty on a regular basis, then that's lowering your vibration. Now, am I here to tell you that you should live a certain way or do a certain thing? No, I am not. I am here to help you accept the reality of your situation. You always have a choice. You don't have to do the same thing you've been doing for weeks, months, or years.
You don't have to. You don't have to. If you've been walking down the wrong path for months, years, decades, it's never too late to stop and turn around. It's never too late.
Right.
Well, Sir William, it's always fun to have you on the show. William is a spiritualist minister. He teaches classes on ascension and raising your vibration and many other metaphysical things. William, if someone wants to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Oh, well, thanks, Eric. I'm on Facebook. My business page is called Happy Medium Will. My phone number is 314-403-4744.
All right, we'll end there with a quote from the legendary inventor Nikola Tesla, who said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Be powerful, folks.
Thanks for listening. If you're struggling with porn or sex addiction, then contact Eric at powerfuleric.com or call 314-717-0377 for a free no-obligation consultation. Remember, you are powerful.